Hello everybody, welcome to our channel. This is Stories from the Road with Spotter. I'm your first host, Tavi.
I'm Patty, and we have a special guest, Ben Little. Ben has a really interesting story. He started in trucking only 3-4 years ago?
5 years, yeah.
5 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay. And then his journey's been crazy. He had weeks where he was netting 10,000
Yeah.
in the first few years, and then he had weeks where he was negative and broke. And Ben,
Worse than broke, yeah.
and Ben became an owner-operator really quick. Less than 1 year's experience, he became an owner-operator. And now Ben is running a company with 2 trucks under him in this horrible market we're in. So I thought his journey was really interesting with all the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess if you dive into that a little bit, when I first got into trucking, the early part of 2018, so a little over 5 years now, I had no idea what I was getting into, to be honest. I was coming off of military orders with the reserves, and I wanted to do something. I wanted to get into something where I could kind of be my own boss, and kind of got tired of having to always answer to someone directly, if you will, right? So I thought, let me get my CDL and dive into a truck.
Did you see an ad that says you'll make a lot of money trucking? Or?
No, it was always in the back of my mind because I had family members who drove trucks. So seeing one of these trucks was always kind of like a reminder to me, like, hey, you can do this for money, but I didn't know anything about the business of trucking. So needless to say, when I got into my first truck, it failed almost right away, the very first time,
But you were working for like a mega carrier.
So I started out with Werner.
Okay.
That was my first company.
Okay.
And that was a decent experience. They had a nice program where I went to school, and obviously because of being a veteran at the time, I was able to earn a little money while going to learn to get my CDL.
Do you remember how many cents per mile they paid you?
In the beginning, they paid 50 cents per mile.
That's so good.
Yeah.
For no experience.
50 cents per
Werner
mile.
paid 50.
While I was in the truck with a trainer who pretty much did all the driving anyway.
Let's all go
And-
for Werner. That's 2018, 50. That's crazy.
Yeah, we were on an account where you had to unload the freight.
Now it makes sense.
But we also did get paid for every trailer. So
Okay.
you can make decent money. As you know, all drivers, you have your first experience, you're touching freight, so you want to stop touching freight. So the only way I could think to do that was to get my own truck. I never even considered like calling companies and say, hey, do you have no touch freight? I just thought they all have touch freight. So I was like, let me get my own truck and figure something out. No idea what I was doing. I didn't know about the load boards. I didn't know how to even book a load. I just figured
I have so many questions. Sorry.
I'll just get a truck.
Werner, I thought the driving school was free.
No,
Oh, you paid for the driving school.
always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
So there are carriers, notably CR England. They're the only ones that I know of where they will fly you in out in Utah. You can, if you don't have any experience, they will actually help you get the license,
and then you're stuck.
and then you have to be with them for a certain amount of time, maybe a year or two.
I thought that was your deal.
Werner wants you to have an idea, have a CDL already. They want you to know the basics, but they will still put you with a trainer. And that's the same for most of those other mega carriers. Yeah. CR England is just different, where they want you now and come now, and they'll give you like 25 cents, 30 cents a mile, or whatever it was. Yeah. So, but yeah, in my experience, I thought I knew it all because I knew how to drive a truck. So I figured, well, I can't fail, right? I have a license, I have ability, I have a truck, let's go. I signed on with that first company, and yeah, like I said, needless to say, it was a terrible experience. I was negative each of the first 3 weeks or so, just because I was using a free load board, and I was probably booking loads. And I also made another mistake. I was trying to stay local. So, you know, I learned all the lessons.
I'm interjecting here.
Yeah.
What was your first truck? How much did you pay for it?
It was a 2014 Volvo VNL, and I actually didn't buy the truck. It was a terrible agreement. I went to a company in the South to get a walkaway lease. I gave them $8,000.
Damn.
And then the truck was about $1,200 a week.
Oh,
At
for a
the time.
5-year-old truck. It's for 4-year-old.
4-year-old, 5-year-old.
So $500,000.
Yeah, about 400 and some change. 8,000 down. The first, let's say, 6 months was about $1,200 a week. That would have been the plan, and that's because you're paying off your IFTA, you're paying off a deposit to the insurance.
And this is when brand new trucks were 100 grand.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So if you follow through with that, it's a 1-year walkaway lease. If you follow through with that, you're paying for the truck twice in a year, pretty much.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
I can't make money.
fortunately for me, that truck only lasted about 5 months. So,
Okay, but and then you lost your 8 grand though.
well, of course, but I did make money. Yeah.
Yeah, but okay.
But yeah, but in the beginning of that initial investment, and then I thought I.
Do the people seem scammy? Were they like laughing at you? I mean, like what?
No.
So you said this is in Texas?
No, Mississippi.
So you paid to fly to Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and then what are the dealers? It's like a dealership. What are the people like?
Yeah, they're a dealership.
They seem like
Pretty nice folks, you know.
They seem nice.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
did
pretty
it?
nice.
Okay.
I mean, they wouldn't even, you know, give me a free cup of coffee, but they were nice, you know. But had they been that nice,
No suspicion that they were gonna rob you.
no,
Wow.
no. Especially because other people had put their reviews. I read those reviews, and the only issue that anyone ever wrote was I broke down within a month, and blah blah blah, blah, you know. But I figured you can't blame them for the breakdown. So
Yeah.
Right.
I figured, hell, I'm jumping in. I tend to have decent luck, you know.
Okay.
But you get the equipment, you go get the equipment looked at, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't worry about that part.
Wow.
No, but none of the reviews complained about money.
Huh.
So I figured, oh, this must be what everybody's doing. Here's the 8,000. Yeah.
True.
Wow. Okay.
Now you came from the reserve, sorry, and you jumped into trucking, and you said that you went through a lot, you made a lot of mistakes. So what was sort of your motivation to like keep persevering, to keep on like just trying, I'm gonna stick with trucking, I'm not gonna go back to the reserves.
Yeah.
What was that sort of mindset for you?
Number one thing was not allowing the space for my family to tell me that I made the wrong choice. So I feel like I had the weight of proving I made the right decision. You know, my son was just born at the time I was getting my license, right? So now I'm a father of 2, and I'm thinking, man, something's gotta pull through for me right now, you know. Doing the bare minimum was never my thing. I always worked too hard, you know. So I figured with my effort and an industry where I see other people clearly making money, it's gotta hit at some point, you know. But what I didn't realize, how much knowledge you need to actually be successful in this industry. You know, the effort alone is nice, but that to me actually is the bare minimum, the effort. As a driver, you know, but you still need the knowledge and believe me, in the first 2 months, I think I learned enough about what not to do. For example, going somewhere, getting a truck, not knowing who you're gonna haul for, not knowing how you're gonna get your loads, not knowing the cost of insurance. I literally didn't know anything about those things and gave these people my 8,000. So imagine I'm in Mississippi with a truck, no trailer, and no company.
Yeah.
I did that.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It is crazy.
So then you lease on.
So I
and
find a company.
You
Yeah.
said you booked cheap loads on Mudflap.
So no, not even. I don't
No?
think Mudflap existed yet.
Okay.
I was using, I forget the name of the load board, but it's a free load board that still exists. And I downloaded that because I'm calling. So I sign on with the company and I take the drug test and I call them. I say, hey man, like, how do I get a trailer? So you know what they did? If you know anything about, well, of course you know about like getting a trailer. They booked me from Mississippi. I deadheaded to Mobile, Alabama for I guess you would call this. It wasn't a power only. It was literally like an empty trailer move.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I could not load the
Power
trailer.
or whatever.
Right? Yeah, it was a brand new trailer that I could not load.
Okay.
And it had to go to North Carolina. So I figured, okay, that's getting me closer to the time I was living in New York, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll get to North Carolina with this. And this just goes to show you how awful I was, like with my knowledge and understanding. I want to say from Mississippi to North Carolina, whatever that mileage is, I want to say that was paying for that trailer move $1,000,
Okay.
right? So again, me coming from military pay and 1,000 other jobs that I had prior to that, hearing 1,000 was like, oh, okay, that sounds like a fair play, you know.
How much were you making in the military?
If you break it down, okay, the reserves has a lot of other incentives, right? If you're active, you make enough money to sustain according to the New York City cost of living.
I was like,
So I actually made decent money when I was active.
okay.
Yeah. When I was inactive, I worked whatever job and I stuck to my once a month duties. Yeah. But when I was active, you make a decent dollar.
Okay.
Yeah. But so hearing $1,000, I was like, oh, great. I get this trailer. I forget. I didn't even do anything with this company, so I don't even have a fuel card. So that's where I learned about EFS. They send me an EFS. I fill up the truck. Now we're rolling. Deadhead to Alabama. I get the trailer to North Carolina. From North Carolina, I just bobtailed home to New York.
Okay.
So imagine, I pretty much spent the entire trip on fuel.
That's
right?
great.
$1,000. And so, of course, when I see my first statement, it's like cargo insurance, this. So it's a negative week, right? And again, no panic. I figured, okay, well that makes sense. I didn't do anything, right? Long story short, that same thing played out for 2 more weeks because I'm using this free load board and I'm taking loads from like New York to Connecticut, 80 miles or 120 miles for $600. And again, me seeing $600, I'm thinking, well, that must be what everybody's doing. $600 to go, 3 hours, right? It made sense to me because as a former, I had driven as a chauffeur, I thought, well, yeah, $600 for the day, that's great. So I would deliver that load in Connecticut and then deadhead home, And I did this like for 2 weeks.
Wow.
In the beginning, thinking, I'm looking at the math, I'm like, okay, 600 on this load, 700 on this load, 400 on this load, and I'm like, I'm leaving the house at 6 in the morning, I'm back home by 3 p.m. I'm like, I'm winning, I'm doing this. And yeah, man, those negative statements just kept coming, the toll and the fuel alone, New York, forget about it, man. Like I was killing myself without even realizing it.
So what moment made you realize, like, wait, this is wrong, it's not how it's supposed to go, and how did you move forward with that?
I was at a truck stop in New Jersey, and an owner-operator, this guy had like a really nice truck, a nice Peterbilt, and we got to talking, and so he's like, hey man, I've been independent for like 20 years, and he casually said to me, he said, well, this is 2018, you're clearing at least 3,000 a week, right? And so again, this is just my ignorance at the time. When he said clearing, I took that as gross, right? I'm like, yeah, making well over 3,000, right? Yeah, of course. And he's like, yeah, man, because with my mortgage and my this and my this, like he says, my bills alone are costing whatever he said, 5,000. And in that moment, it hit me. I'm like, oh wow, this guy is clearing, he's netting over 3,000 a week. And I said to him, I opened up my load board and I said, man, where are you finding those loads? Like, look at this. And he just like, he almost like looked at me like he wanted to like slap me for wasting his time in conversation. And he shows me DAT for the first time, right? And he's like, you need to call these people right now, man. You're out here driving around like you're crazy. Like, what are you doing? Like, you know, and then I also, on top of that, the same facility that I had just delivered at, I wound up finding a load from DAT that was paying 3 times the amount. So that's when I started learning right then and there through this gentleman who, you know, you look in DAT, you're paying for the load board, right? So you start to see rates that make sense, they're more respectable. You understand now the relationships between broker and carrier, right? When you're on that free load board, that's like the last resort place that where they just throw it on there. Like, if you're dumb enough to take this, have it. And that was me for 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. But that changed everything. Once I saw his load board and where he was logged in, I got my membership that day, and I was rolling. You know, after that, until I wasn't, but I was rolling. You know, yeah, for sure.
This was end of 2018.
August.
August 2018.
Yeah.
Was the market was starting to crash?
I don't think it was starting to crash.
2019 was bad. 2019 and
2018 summer, I
so
was
it was like the peak.
I was still doing all right, and then I did the next best thing. I got off the open market and signed on with a company out of New Jersey that had dedicated freight. And believe me, at that point, now I was clearing what you should clear when you buy a truck, you know? But then I also learned right around this time, Thanksgiving, their business completely cut in half. And so were the earnings. So, you know, they were a beer hauler primarily. They also hauled from the port, so they had port work. From the port to the yard, and then from the yard, New Jersey to Long Island, round trip. You do a couple of those trips, overnight hours. You're making like, you know, daily $800, and you know, Monday through Friday, you're clearing your netting after your expenses. Yeah, easily. Yeah, and that was in that moment. I thought, oh my God, on my way to my first million.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just do this forever. And it's so ironic we're discussing this now because leading up to Thanksgiving, they send out this email that's like, basically they're almost announcing what a great year we had. And like the year is over. See you next season. Yeah. I get back to the yard, I see other owner operators walking around like hugging each other, shaking hands, and fist bumping and all that. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I just started like 3 weeks ago. What's going on? And this guy was like, hey man, we killed it. We cleared the holiday rush early, and we'll hit it hard again. We'll be back in April. Okay. And so the company didn't close, of course, but the volume went like literally, it was just gone. So I showed up for work that next Monday. Instead of 3 runs in the day, 1 run. Okay. And then sit and wait, and maybe a second run for like a third of the price, going like 8 miles up the road. So that it all of a sudden it became like instantly a gig where you're running back and forth for 7-8 hours and making great money, to a gig where you come in and you idle for hours.
How did you find this job?
Craigslist.
Really? Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. But you search Craigslist as geographic. You literally search for New Jersey Craigslist.
I searched for greater New York at that time.
Yes.
Yeah. But funny thing is, and I got right back to an OTR position first week of December, and that's what brought me to Chicago for the first time. Yeah.
Wow.
Was searching Craigslist for OTR job, and it blew me away. I think it said owner operators minimum 250K per year, and I saw that and I was like, oh, back in business. You know? I wanted to deadhead to Chicago, you know, with all the losses I already took, like deadheading here and there. I was like, man, I'm ready to go right now. And when I called them, they happened to have an Amazon account. And so they were like, oh, you know, where are you out of? I said, I'm in New York, I'm in New York City. They said, oh, look, we have a pickup 120 miles away in Pennsylvania, but it's delivering in Wisconsin next day. Can you get can you get down there by tonight? And I was like, yeah, I can get down there. And literally, I hopped in the truck and just boom, went to Pennsylvania. You know, Amazon sometimes loads early, so I picked it up right away, power load, and phew, right across, man. I was in Wisconsin, you know, night after, and then, you know, I think it was like a Thursday to Monday deal. So like, I was in the company's office by Monday morning, and I'm telling you, I was back in business, man. You know, that late 2018 market. Yeah.
So is that $250,000? Is that what inspired your move to Chicago?
For sure. Because on the East Coast, no one was posting anything like that. They were still, at that time, the companies were still more speaking the language of, you know, 1,800 to 2,300 per week. Everyone was focused on the week, and there's something that just caught my eye about reading the number annually. You know, because I think the experience I had with that carrier in New Jersey, they couldn't say what the price would be per week because it literally gets cut to a third of itself. And so when I did the math, I'm like, man, it's really good if you're here summertime until Thanksgiving. It's hell if you're here from Thanksgiving till spring. So when I saw numbers annually, I'm like, okay, to me that said consistency. It just said, this is what it is, right? So I came out here, and you know, and again, with the Amazon, it was actually much better than I thought. You know, just because it was like ping pong ball bouncing around. Since then, it's got oversaturated. You know, so again, something else that I came right on time to the party, maybe a little late, but within a month of running that Amazon, that truck I had. And so that's why I ran into my next obstacle. I had like an $8,000 invoice at M&K here in Alsa, you know, and so yeah, it's funny when I drive by there now. I'm like, man, that's the first shop. That was the first terrible moment I ever had in Chicago. I'm there to pick up a damn Amazon load. I'm sitting at Amazon, and while I'm idling, my truck derated, and I couldn't do anything, you know. And road service came; they couldn't do anything, and so there it was. So, but the company conveniently had a truck sitting ready for me to lease. So I dropped the truck off, Ubered over there, still made my load, and everything was beautiful except for the fact that, you know, now I'm draining $1,000 a week for their truck. My truck that I initially had, which was $1,200 a week, I had paid off a couple of things that were built into their lease, so I was down to paying like $700 a week for that truck. So when that problem arose, I just didn't have the 8K liquid, you know, so I was like, okay, let's put it in the shop. Because it was a walkaway lease, I negotiated with the company, you know, come get your truck. They didn't want that. They offered to pay like 30% of the invoice. And we shook hands verbally over the phone. New Year, Christmas, New Year's, it's been over a month, the truck's in the shop. I come back on the road after New Year's. M&K, the bill goes from 8 to 16. I called the company in Mississippi, I said, come get your truck. You know, like 30%, 50%, 70%, I'm not paying $16,000, right? So I wound up just staying in that leased truck for 2019, the duration. And it was early 2020, right before the world, you know, went crazy, right, with madness and virus. I got my second truck. And this time, yeah, that truck was it was about 20,000. It was a 2015 International with about 500 plus miles, 1,000 miles, but it was only 20 grand because of the engine type. I didn't realize like these engines were bad,
Yeah.
you know. But I bought that truck and I ran it.
In cash?
And no, not cash. But I had a couple thousand down for sure, a few thousand, yeah. And
So the monthly payment on that must have been like $300.
yeah, it was 600 and change.
Over. Okay.
Yeah, it was 600 and change.
I see.
It was almost like a car payment.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I drove that truck until I pretty much got tired of driving it. That truck never broke down. If you know how 2020 was,
Yes.
people had money, right? So I would post, I would post a truck just to see if anybody, and people were just offering me 30,000, 40,000 left and right, and I was like, oh no, keep driving. You know, I figured like this is trucking, I'll drive it, and someone will still give me 40,000 next year.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that didn't happen.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so.
Speaking of which, so you got your second truck right before the virus happened.
Yeah.
So what was that like, being a driver a couple years in and then having this whole pandemic? What was that like for you and your family, having to still be on the road? Just take us through that.
Initially, to be honest, the safest place I felt was in the truck, by myself. In fact, around that same time, Pilot released mobile fueling. And that was the first time that I activated the mobile fueling on my phone. So now I can pull up to a Pilot and it reads my location and I'm mobile fueling. So just to kind of highlight where I was mentally, I just didn't want to be around people, right? And I also, because of how serious things were, I knew a couple of people personally early in 2020 who were sick and a couple others who did lose their life. And so I was just like in a weird place, like, oh man, I'm out here, I'm bouncing around from California to Arkansas to Wisconsin to Florida back to Colorado. So like I'm going across the whole country, but I'm essentially isolated, right? So the only time I have to really even come somewhat close to a person is inside of a truck stop or a grocery store, whatever. But I would say that it wasn't harder on my family. It was maybe the job itself was better because there was no traffic on the road. We spent more hours on the phone because now the kids are home. Yeah. So FaceTime became a staple. Like I had to get a good dash mount, and I would like have FaceTime on and just drive for hours. So I kind of was like more connected even with my children. My son wasn't in school yet. My daughter, her being home all day, every day. So it's like so it was kind of like interesting in that way that it brought us closer. And then I started talking to people that I hadn't talked to for years, right? Because this thing is just going on in the world, so you get back to like what I guess. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people didn't have such a great experience, but 2020 for me in particular was a really calm and like decent year. Yeah. All things considered. But I really, going back home to New Jersey at the time, once I think May, around the middle of May, they started opening the parks and whatnot. So yeah, I would literally bring the truck home and just go to the beach, And again, the crowds were like non-existent. Yeah. So it was interesting, to think about what life would be like, after Armageddon, so to speak. That's kind of what I would describe the road. It was like empty. Yeah. You blow by a state trooper and he only has his eyes focused on you for so long that you can actually wave to the guy when you're driving past, Yeah. No cars on the road, it's interesting. Yeah. No speeding tickets at that time either.
Ooh, and you said that Pilot during that time they had just created the mobile
Yeah.
fuel app. So speaking of like tech with trucking,
Yeah.
what's sort of your opinion on that? Like now you have AI that's incorporated with trucking, you have auto trucks, etc. So like, what's your opinion on the whole integration of technology and the supply chain?
It's necessary. It is very necessary. I think from a safety perspective, that's probably the first place I could say that we started to see technology in the truck with the lane assist.
You like that?
I don't. For me,
Okay.
I don't.
But you like it for everyone
But
else.
I do believe it's really good technology
Okay.
for a new
Everybody-
driver.
yeah.
You know, and if you come into trucking with that technology
Yeah.
and you can get used to driving that way, it may, it will save you headache or your life.
Yeah.
Of course you have the technology. The one I used to like when you're in cruise control and they have the detection where they can tell like if the vehicle in front of you is doing 62 and you're doing 65, it'll lower your speed. Again, for me, I don't like it. I don't like it, but it's very good technology.
Yeah.
So, and I like technology to work with, with human. I like human input and human thought and human influence
Yeah.
to work together with technology. And also, I like technology that literally enhances whatever the human process is. So, and I know that is literally the basis of it, but sometimes things feel, I guess the thought of it is, people generally, we don't want AI to replace us fully. In our processes, we want to be able to keep our duties, right, and our assignments, and we want to still feel like our input is there. But I've come to realize that in this industry right now, especially when you're talking about dispatching, when you're talking about safety, or kind of understanding how to run your truck, obviously, technology is necessary for that to be optimized.
I agree.
You said, okay, so why do you not like it? Because it beeps when you know it's fine.
Yeah, it's just like frustrating. It's more of an annoyance because sometimes, again, with AI, I'm in my lane and someone else came over in their lane, so now I have to get over in mine, and now this thing is like, and you're in the middle of one of your good songs, you're jamming, just driving, attentive, right? Just the sound that it makes, it cuts your radio. Or with the front one, you're cruising just fine, but it's like ice or debris on your radar, and it just like literally like jams your truck.
Yeah.
So, not huge fan of those things, But and I don't know that they've ever caused an accident, but it felt like it could.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing. But it works obviously. So.
What's your goal later? Own a fleet, or what are you hoping to achieve?
So when we fast forward to today, with the week that I had recently, right? You mentioned I have 2 trucks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, one I had to say goodbye to the driver, and the other truck was in the shop simultaneously. And I got a snapshot real quick, a reminder of how fragile all this is.
Yes.
And how dedicated to growth you have to be in order to be successful and to really to build yourself up financially, right? So I realized that 1 truck is good, 2 trucks is dangerous. So that tells me right away that I need 3. So I think when you talk about my end game, as much as I hate to say it, I think the only thing to do is to grow. Like I want 5 more right now. Really, I think that's the only way to go.
How many total in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years?
No.
Like, do you want to chill at 10 or do you want to chill at 50 or do you
I would like it.
chill?
I would like it to be small enough for me to be able to know what's going on at
Okay.
all times. So depends on my capacity.
30, 40.
Man,
That's too
that's
many?
getting rough.
Okay.
I would
20?
love to do it. I would love to do it.
Yeah.
But I also understand that you're talking team at that point. You need a team, right? And AI can be a part of that team, but you need people. So, yeah, I think for me, a realistic goal is within a year. I want to be sitting here a year from now with, maybe 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from there we'll see. We'll see.
You don't want a team because you're a control freak?
No, I just don't know what to allocate just yet. I don't know what's too much to allocate, and I don't know what is not enough.
That's
So,
easy to figure out.
well, maybe so. Maybe.
I think you're just.
with
I
your
think
help,
you're
I
just.
don't know. For me,
I think you're just anxious.
Prior to this week, I was actually scared, to be honest. And you
Yeah.
know the saying,
But
right?
it's false.
Scared money
It's
doesn't make
false.
money.
It's false. I mean, that's
For sure.
That's not a. I mean, that's not really a concern.
The way I looked at it was, again, with 2 trucks, I thought to myself, okay, one will supplement the other. But then, what I didn't
Both of them.
realize is with the 2 of those being the 100%, it only takes 2 incidences for 100% of my entity to be inactive. So you need to increase that number, right? For a lot of reasons. It helps across the board. So you figure now with 10, right? If 2 trucks are down that week, okay, 80% of your entity is operating. And that's how I'm looking at it now. So that's why I think a good, safe number for me to manage independently with minimal help is 10. Yeah.
Now, what piece of advice would you give to a new driver or maybe somebody that's thinking about getting their CDL,
Yeah.
don't know what to do? What would you say to them?
First and foremost, if you are a driver, master driving first, right? Just understand and know fully that you are able to operate this truck. If your goal is to become an owner and have multiple trucks and hire people, know what you're doing so that you can always know what you're talking about. You understand the experience fully. You're a driver through and through, because other drivers, I believe, gravitate and buying a truck, right? Know where you're going to get your freight, how you're going to get your freight, know the lanes you want to run, and also get down to it, in detail with the numbers too. Like, know how much you're gonna spend in fuel, and these are all things you can learn as a rookie driver driving for a mega carrier, right? You swipe the fuel card, they're paying, but you're swiping the card. You know how much the fuel costs, you know how much the tolls are, you see, the areas that you primarily drive if you're regional or over the road. So I would say just understand that all of that information is going to make or break you if you're looking to own equipment or even run equipment or lease equipment, whatever you're looking to do.
Very good advice.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah.
You said, I guess a change topic. What is your best week? You said you had some 20K gross weeks, 25K? What was the best? And
So
what was it?
the absolute best week, I wasn't driving, of course, in this situation.
Oh,
For me, I mean, if anyone, you know me, I had a habit of not doing the most, but trying to make the most while doing what I want to do, in a sense, right? So, but my best gross was probably somewhere around 14,000, which, again, there have been many drivers in the independent contractor world that
they'll say that's very low.
yeah, right. And so the highest gross I've ever seen was 2021, this time of the year. And this particular individual did not go home for Thanksgiving, right? So he ran, let's say the Monday up till Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, maybe he had a Wednesday delivering Friday, and then kept running. He grossed in that week $29,000.
That's what we were chatting about earlier.
Yeah.
Right before and after Thanksgiving, there's some.
That
spikes.
is true. I witnessed it, and God willing, we'll have that spike right now. But yeah, that's the most I've ever seen.
Was that 2021?
2021, yeah, 2021 November. Okay. Yeah, and it may have been an 8-day gross, but it was
Wow.
Do you know what he was hauling?
Well, to be frank, 90% of those loads were actually Amazon freight.
Okay.
So
It's like Amazon's Black Friday.
Amazon went crazy.
Prime Day, or is that?
Probably
Yeah.
something.
Prime?
What I would imagine, based on the demand, I don't know that we'll see those kinds of numbers again. But he had some loads that were $7 a mile, some loads that were $18 a mile, and then imagine a 600-mile load paying $18 a mile. I mean, it's unthinkable.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen again with Amazon because Relay was a new platform. So they just need users.
Yeah. I just couldn't believe it. And then he wasn't the only one. There were during that same week, there were other drivers hauling the same freight that still did 14, 16. So it was a great week in general.
Yeah, like making $29,000 in 8 days. I mean,
Yeah.
what goes through your mind? Like, how do you handle that?
Pay all your debts. That's how you handle
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
You pay off all your debts?
To date, at that time.
That's great. Okay.
And we've got newly acquired debts now, as always. That's right. But pay your debts. Yeah, and the thought kind of came in that moment too, like, oh my goodness, like, do you take this and buy another truck? It's like, and the driver, it's like, man, thank you for not going home, like, you know what I mean? Like,
You think you should not take the money and buy another truck before paying off your debt?
now I would buy another truck.
You would. I think that's
now
the right
I
thing to
would.
do.
Believe me,
You got to keep grinding and just keep buying trucks.
everyone from lawyers to people who live in finance, everyone advises typically against paying debts, especially when they're old debts, right? And it took me a long time.
Because you're getting a loop. You work and pay off that and work and pay off that. You're stuck.
Right. Yeah.
There's no growth plan. I mean, you can also get in a lot of trouble if you just take on a bunch of that as well.
No, for sure.
You gotta be smart about it. I mean, you're experiencing them now.
Yeah, for sure. I think negotiating those old debts is one thing, but keeping your eyes downfield and moving forward, you have to do it that way. So I would certainly buy another truck given that opportunity.
Now, what's the most bizarre thing or funniest thing that has happened on the road?
Oh man, well, I don't know. Aside from lot lizards knocking on your door, my first trainer is a Jamaican guy, and I recall I'm sleeping in the top bunk, and 2 a.m, you hear the voice, "You need some company tonight," and that was the day I learned that a lot of owner operators out there are carrying firearms, right? So I hear him grab something and he peeled the curtain back up from the truck, just like that, but stuff like that. But I would say the most bizarre thing that's actually happened to me in trucking is buying a truck for $5,800 cash and
That was the best.
sleeping at a truck stop.
Sorry, this is a recent truck.
Yeah, this is the current truck
That was the best truck.
Yeah.
Ben bought a truck for $5,800,
Yeah.
That's great.
and it
58.
hasn't broken down yet.
No, I did just replace. I did.
And it's running like 4,000 miles a week.
Yeah. I did just
Wow.
replace the EGR valve.
Okay.
After whatever 8 months, something happened. Right, 2,500. But you buy that truck. I drove it myself for the first couple of months, but 2 weeks in, I park at a truck stop. I go to a baseball game. I come back, go to sleep. 2 in the morning, the truck is rocking, you know? And I get up and I see the driver of another truck backed into my driver's side. Really, it wasn't the worst incident. She's trying to leave the freaking gas station, the truck stop. So I jump out the truck. Hey, you hit me. And long story short, when the claim comes in, I got twice the price of my truck. In return. Yeah.
Wow.
And fixed the truck minimally, and again paid some debts.
For the next truck you buy, how would you go about getting a good deal like you did last time?
Specifically, I think I would look for drivers who don't mind driving older trucks first.
Oh,
And
okay.
once I've identified that, I will gladly just go and look for another cheap truck on marketplace or
Any
an auction.
but not any cheap truck. Like how do you,
Specifically, like I have a D12 engine in this truck, which is before the iShift D13. So it's you have to know the engine type.
so D12s are
Yeah, those are horses.
so, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, in every country, wherever they're running.
Okay.
They'll 1, 2, 3, 4 million miles. Those they run.
Okay.
So my truck's a little bit under 2 million miles now. You know, I got it at like 1.45, whatever.
So the
But
same original engine.
original, yeah.
Okay.
It hasn't even been
Does it have
overhauled yet.
DEF system on it?
No def.
Okay.
It's a 2007 truck, so
Okay. Saves
pre
money
def.
there too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, no doubt.
And then I guess not just the engine could go wrong. So did you check the chassis and transmission?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay. How do you check that? Like,
Well, when I took the truck, I immediately went to a shop.
Okay.
And so get under the truck.
I see.
I'm not a mechanic, but I mean, I can look and see, you can feel like those basic things, right? Like when you turn the wheel, you don't hear the, you know, so you know the leaf springs are good.
Okay.
I mean, these are telltale signs like, oh, okay, well, this person either really had good luck for 15 years or the leaf springs are newer, right? There's no leaking from the wheel seals or the hubs, so okay, well, I can hold air pressure, I can hold oil. There's no oil dripping on the floor. Once you've identified those things and you don't see like the truck is leaning, nothing glaring, you have no reason to not believe that this is a horse. And then from that point, the same maintenance that you need on a newer truck, you need on an older truck at that point. You know, I believe that you can spend the same money per year on a 15-year-old truck and a truck that just came off the line yesterday. You know, obviously with a newer truck you have warranties, which that's a different thing, you know. But just speaking about what could go wrong, anything could go wrong. So yeah, for me personally, it's my strategy. When you don't have a large bank and you know you're not interested in acquiring loans to some degree, you can try to get yourself some cheaper trucks. And on the flip side, have a contingency plan, right? Your truck breaks down, if you're signed onto a carrier, be upfront with that driver and the company. Hey, my truck goes down, don't worry, I'll let it sit and we'll lease one of your trucks. And that's kind of how I like to do business as well.
Awesome. Well, I think you told us a lot of great things. I think we truckers have a lot of information that they can use as well. So
No doubt.
yeah, that wraps up our first episode from Stories from the Road with Spotter. I'm Tavi.
I'm Patty.
And make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more episodes. I think that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.